We've just concluded our roundtable discussion about cooperative mobility and automated driving systems. We had a diverse group of about 30 participants from several countries participating in the discussion, representing a wide range of stakeholder organizations. Our discussion began with presentation of 4 background papers that were on the topics of governance challenges, the human factors and user acceptance issues, some of the legal constraints, and the business models that could govern the operation of shared mobility systems. The meat of the meeting was really the discussions among all the participants about several of the key issues. We began with consideration of the different concepts of operation for use of automation to help with shared mobility applications. We considered a very diverse collection of vehicle types and transportation services that could be offered to meet a wide range of potential user needs. And in particular, we discovered we really needed to consider a wide range of operational design domains in which the technology would be able to provide automation of the driving functions. This considers issues like how well those vehicles need to mix with other road users. Do they coexist freely with all other vehicles? How do they coexist with pedestrians and bicyclists with whom they're sharing the road space? And are they limited within certain geographic regions, certain classes of roadways, certain speed ranges? All of those technologically imposed limits on the locations in which the automation can operate govern the types of services that can be offered to the users. Based on those different types of services, we considered a wide range of possible impacts that they could have on the transportation system, whether they would only have relatively localized impacts or impacts that could extend regionally, and to what extent those are going to happen in relatively short time frame or longer time frame. In the longer term, when the technology can be applied over a wide range of applications, it could have significant impacts on land use as well as on the transportation operations themselves. And although the discussion began with an implicit assumption that the impacts would all be positive, in the course of the discussion we realized we needed to consider potential negative impacts as well as positive impacts and the possibility for unintended consequences from use of automation and shared mobility. The second breakout discussion was about the business models to govern the implementation and the operation of the shared automated vehicle systems. And we considered different models for vehicle ownership, for vehicle operation, and for to what extent those operations would be shared as opposed to individually occupied. We also considered a wide range of roles for public sector and private sector organizations to be taking the key roles in operation of such a system. The business models got connected to the benefits and the costs that would result from use of the technology. And as the discussion went on, we realized these could have different impacts for different stakeholder groups. That affects the business models because then it becomes necessary to have mechanisms for transferring between those who benefit and those who may suffer some adverse consequences. And in particular, we talked a lot about changes in the employment market, some jobs that might be impacted adversely, other categories of jobs that could be impacted positively. And indeed, as the discussion progressed, we realized that in quite a few places, economic development is at least as much motivation for interest in this topic as the impacts on transportation. So how do we consider overall the balance between the economic development goals and the transportation service goals? The third breakout discussion was about public sector actions. What type of actions should public agencies be taking relative to shared and automated vehicle use? We talked about the need for funding for research and development to deal with a variety of issues, perhaps most prominently the assessment of what the impacts would be, both positive and negative, but also consideration of the human factors considerations and the technological ones as well, which are the areas in which knowledge is still incomplete and needs to be grown based on additional research and development. Much of the discussion was about regulations. What type of approach should be taken by public agencies at national levels and at regional and local levels to develop intelligent regulations that will not overly constrain innovation, but will also protect public safety to make sure that systems that are made available for public use are indeed going to not make safety worse than it is today. We also talked about how much could be harmonized at an international level, recognizing the diversity of government structures and priorities that we would have in different countries and different localities. We wanted to, in particular, find that right balance between promoting innovation and protecting safety. One topic that came up was the need to involve law enforcement and informing law enforcement people about both the capabilities and the limitations of the technology so that they can make intelligent decisions when vehicles get into crash situations. We had a lot of discussion about data collection, data ownership, and the need to protect privacy. There are competing considerations involving data for public sector use to keep track of safety issues, the interests of private industry developers in protecting their proprietary information, and the need of the general public to have their personal privacy protected as well. And finally, we considered the importance of educating all of the stakeholders, the general public, the media, the elected officials, as well as people in industry, about technology capabilities and technology limitations so that they can have realistic expectations for what type of services could be delivered and how far in the future those different type of systems could become a reality. The final breakout discussion was about the different environments in which the shared automation could be applied. And in this case, the fundamental issues seem to be matching the transportation services that are provided with the specific needs for transportation in those locations, recognizing that different areas are going to have different priorities and different needs, whether it's from one city or one region to another, or even from one country to another. We also considered significant differences between the priorities and the needs in the industrialized world and in the developing world, because those are quite different in their existing transportation systems and also in their attitudes towards things like car ownership and driving. Those will not be the same from country to country. Our discussion indicated some caution about not making the technology itself the goal, but trying to use technology to help improve transportation. And this means developing a good understanding of what the impacts are going to be for use of the technology in different transportation environments. That's likely to be governed in part by private markets, in part by the public needs for transportation, but also we can't avoid the importance of having champions within public agencies and champions within the industry who are going to actually push aggressively to try to get demonstrations or to get public deployments of the technology. So overall, it was a very rich and engaging discussion with some controversy, and in the end, quite a lot of agreement that this is an important topic and one that deserves further attention. Thank you.